Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, so I'm not gonna touch anything else. So what happened is that I integrated Zoom to my fitness app,
Yeah.
and it required me to use a password. So I think now for everything I need to reshare that password. So I'm gonna have to
Hmm.
do some of that work on the back end.
Okay. Well, I guess it's good that I came through on the new system then. So
Definitely.
tested it.
And to answer your question, I'm doing good, man. It's been an interesting day. My father's business partner's wife unfortunately passed away today from COVID, but
Oh, wow.
besides crazy. Besides that, just doing work and trying to keep my mind productive.
Yeah. I apologize. Yeah, that's the
Thank you.
situation.
How are you?
Good. Really good, man. I mean, things are going really well. Um, how are you? What are you doing with Trevor exactly?
Yeah, so I'm
Everything?
work pretty much everything. Working
Yeah.
on the book, and that's what we connected on first and foremost. And as we were working on the book, I had pitched him when he was trying to get me to join the community about training him. Then he actually decided to try it, and he's been seeing some great progress from it. Where now we've opened up the Zoom to the community. Spencer has joined us, and I keep inviting more people to join the workout. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 7 o'clock.
Oh, okay. So that's the morning workout thing that's popped up on my calendar.
Definitely,
That's
yeah.
your work.
You should come on if you're free. You should join us. It's actually a fun time, and it's
No
interesting.
possible way. No possible way.
Work.
So because I work Australian hours,
Oof.
so 7 a.m. Not waking up at 7 a.m.
I figure
Not
that.
not for anything. Not for anything.
And
So
with your book, what's the premise about it again?
well, so I started with Trevor because I had already written my book. I had a completed manuscript that just needed polishing and editing, and I was planning on working with another firm to help publish it. But I just kind of started thinking, I'm like, I'm not 100% sure this is the right approach. I think I need to think differently. And then I got in touch with Trevor, and it became clear that he was offering a very different type of program, one that was way more focused on my business and way less focused on my book. And that's what I was starting to think. I'm like, wait, I need to get clarity around my business more, and the book is just going to serve that. And part of the problem was the book that I was writing was actually about career development. I don't care about, I'm not ever trying to help anyone develop their career professionally. That's not what I get paid to do. But so because it's done and because I think it's going to be good and I like it and it makes sense in some ways, it's just like, okay, we're just publishing that and I'm going to start launching book 2 in like a month.
Smart.
Or announcing book 2 in a month, right? So my book 1, I've only been with Trevor for a month, and I'm about ready to pre-launch book 1. Just like, hey, it's ready. Just get it out there. Let's do it. It's good. It'll be fun, cool. And then book 2 will be coming out, and that's more for my client, which is business owners, founders, stuff like that. People looking to grow their company successfully.
Makes sense, because then you have the first book, which you already have written out. You'll be an author. You'll have that under your belt. That's another tool.
Yeah,
Build that
and
momentum.
yeah, and that's why I realized when we were kind of going back and forth, do we release it? Do we not? And it was like, well, let's get this done. Let's get it done the right way. Let me get the bestseller stuff and, have all that to my name. And that will just even make it easier with book 2 to like immediately like, okay, right from the beginning, hey, it's not my first book. I'm already a best-selling author, et cetera, et cetera. I already have all these reviews, and that just can, I think, help even make the hook more effective.
Yeah, and you have that point of the fact of having a book on career development for those that are founders, business owners that want to keep developing the career. They'll still look for you.
Well, I think the way that we'll kind of angle it is just like, hey, I've written this book. It's not really for you, but your team. It might be valuable to your team. So to help make them more productive, more effective within your company. So yeah, it has a touch point that makes sense, and so yeah.
Cheers.
But you're going to be writing a book. Your client are mainly what, celebrities, or?
So I work with Gen Pop celebrities. I've worked with high-end performers, athletes. My focus is to bring fitness to people that are looking to look good and feel good, and
Yep.
first and foremost, feeling good. And with my book, it'll be explaining what core fitness is. I'm going to be taking a holistic approach, right?
Yeah.
It's not just about looking good. It's about, how you're moving, how you feel throughout the day, how you're interacting with your family and friends, and giving people programs that are scientifically proven. They're based off of theories and practicum that will help them get these goals. And it's pretty much me being able to solidify my health and wellness just industry and everything that I'm doing. I make products as well. I have programs that I'm offering online, in person. So I want to be able to grow a solidified empire in the health and wellness industry as I continue on with entrepreneurship into different spaces.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. I think we would probably agree on a lot of things to do with health and fitness.
Yeah, I saw that you used to train athletes. I would love to hear more about it.
Yeah, so like I kind of started out, that's where I was at one point in time. Again, part of my book is about career development, right? About people that have very unconventional, non-linear careers. Well, case study number one was myself. So in high school, actually, I was very serious in the sports. I ran track. I play all sports, but track is my main sport. My last year in high school, I was the 12th rated 400 hurdler in the United States.
Jesus Christ, you're savage.
And I was pretty good at the 110 hurdles too, but not like not national level, right? I think I was in the top probably 200 maybe, but not comparable. And so I had scholarships. Yeah, I had scholarships, and so I went to University of Iowa on track scholarship. I was born in Iowa, so that was. And specifically, their hurdling coach was Joey Woody. I'm sure you don't know him, right? He's not that famous, but if you were really into 400-meter hurdles in the Midwest, you knew who Joey Woody was. And so
he was
just
the
really
guy.
cool. Yeah, he was the guy, right? He was on the USA Olympic team, and so yeah, that was really exciting. And so I'm like, oh man, I could train under him. Well, anyway, I got injured badly, lost scholarship, can't run anymore. And it was kind of my fault because I was taking an awful lot of legal but performance enhancing drugs in high school. I was at the height of it, I was probably taking 19 different pills a day. And we're talking, your creatines, that world, right? Mm-hmm. And yeah, I ended up getting really bad tendonitis, to the point where I couldn't even hardly walk around a track one time, let alone run really fast, right? If you can't even walk around a track,
and set records.
You can't keep your scholarship to run track. So yeah, that was a life-changing moment. And so I realized I couldn't do that. And so, but I wanted to heal myself. And I was thinking, okay, well, step one, stop taking this poison and never do it again. And maybe try to work with some people who are competing or are trying to compete and who are taking stuff like that and who've been injured, and show them how they can prevent that and fix themselves. And so I started trying to fix myself, and I did it through strength training. And so I started studying mainly the Russian kettlebell enthusiasts. Historically, though, right, a lot of the historic literature on Russian strength training and kind of these classical models. I studied all the work of Pavel Tsatsouline. He's a Russian strength trainer. Maybe you've heard of him. He trains Russian special forces, big into kettlebells, big into very holistic strength training. So I read all of his books. What's that?
He did Strong First, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. Yeah. But I read all his books and learned from him. And I followed the work of Mark Twite. He's a strength trainer out of Colorado. He's the guy who trained all of the guys in the movie 300.
Got it.
And so I followed all of their philosophies and kind of integrated them into how I was working out. And I decided, hey, I'm going to start training for the Olympics in weightlifting. And so I started training for that. And that was kind of a pathway to actually fixing my injuries through actually building strength, but like full body strength, because the problem with creatine, just like a steroid, is that it grows your muscle faster than it grows your connective tissue, ligaments, bone structure, all of that stuff. Again, I'm sure you know all that, right? But that was the nature of my injury, And so that allowed my entire body to get strong and capable to handle the weight and speed that I wanted, rather than just the muscular capacity. And so I kind of tapped into some knowledge there through actual experience, right? I can speak to that, not theoretically. I'm like, I did that. That's what happened to me. I was injured very bad, could barely walk, lost athletic scholarship, and fixed myself after 6 months through appropriate strength training. And on top of that, I was weighing under 100. I was weighing about 150 pounds approximately, a little bit of movement there. And I increased my deadlift. I'd never done strength training. I increased my deadlift in a year from one rep max of 175 to 425.
Jesus Christ. And now imagine if you had that while running track, how fast you'd be. And you're already 12 ranked 12th in the world.
But again, that was after my, right. So I was done with
correct.
Then, right.
Yeah.
So yeah. But anyway, so
it's
I
amazing.
had kind of that story. And so I just, I happened to have a small network, and I knew some people, not like super high level people, but again, a guy trying to get into the MLB, somebody competing in marathons, someone who was a soccer player, trying to get in, MLS, just a few things like that, right? Very low level, but yeah, I just like, hey, this is my story. This is what I've done. I can train you. I didn't even get paid for it. I just am like, hey, I work out. This is where I work out. You can join. And they were uniquely, the baseball player, he was somebody who was suffering from a shoulder injury that was hurting his draft potential. And so, but yeah,
rotator cuff.
Yeah. So classic injury, of course, right? So, and in my opinion, he was doing the wrong workouts, doing it the wrong way, and so I corrected his training. But yeah, that's my brief blip within that world, right?
So that's something that you were able to take a moment to see. All right, what should I focus on? You dedicated your time, your energy, your effort. You built your wisdom by actually doing the reps, putting the theories into practice, and that way you know it from an actual sense. And that's one thing that sometimes within even my industry, you have a lot of people that are very theoretical. They know the science, they know all that, but unless you do it yourself, it's going to be tough to really connect with the client who is either on a fat loss journey, looking for muscle strength, he's trying to become more optimal for work, or he's an athlete, and that's what sets great coaches apart from just mediocre. As you would know from working with high class coaches, no matter if it's a weightlifting coach or the hurdling coach, there's different ways that they go about things.
Yeah, no, definitely true. But yeah, I'm not obviously in that world anymore, but I know it. I appreciate it. I like seeing people get involved. I absolutely can't stand American health and fitness culture. I think it's absurd. I think people need to move more, and they need to walk more, they need to be better. We can even get into politics almost here. It's just like, we talk about healthcare policy. It's like, you know what a good healthcare policy is? Walk. Go for a walk.
Get out of the house. Get some sunlight.
Like, and then like there, you produce your healthcare bill automatically. But
think about how little they talked about, eating right, working out more during this whole pandemic.
Yeah, no, and I mean, even we can even get into the point of like healthcare professionals. My sister is a nurse, and her husband is about to become a doctor. And I will tell you what, the last people in the world I would ever get health advice is from my sister and her husband. They are some of the most unhealthy people in the world, right? And they're the healthcare practitioners, and they're overweight, and they don't move, and they eat garbage, and they drink Mountain Dew, and it's just terrible. But yeah,
I think it's I was talking to Rob Cornelis about this. The way that we're going about it, and the way that people go about taking care of their bodies and being preventative is not the right way. They don't try to go to a specialist. Sometimes they just go to a doctor who is just a general doctor, but he will start to speak on topics that he doesn't know too much in depth about. Yep. Doctors need to have that. They need to be more responsible and say, all right, this is not my field. I can just give you general advice. Let me send you over to a strength coach that I trust, or let me send you to a nutritionist, as opposed to just giving general information that general isn't going to help anything. If general information was great, everybody would be in shape, because it's all online. We need the proper coaches, the proper individual that can work with personalities to help them. But yeah, people will go to get surgery as opposed to see how they can work on the long-term effect of eating better, moving better, trying different exercises and sticking to it. And it's this fast food mentality that we have, this just get everything fast. You download an app and you see congrats and all this. It's this instant feedback that doesn't allow people to slow down to say, it's going to take me a couple months to a year for me to feel better, to then see change. Once people are okay with that and are just and are okay, and understanding they're becoming better people and getting better habits throughout that journey, and they enjoy that part, it's cool. The end result is the end result. At the end of all of this, we die. So we need to enjoy the middle more.
Yeah, no, it's true, and you know, and so that is really the great debate. You know, do we what is the optimal path of the appropriately calibrated pleasurable life? You know, is it gluttony or is it organic existence, right? And you know, and I don't know. I like looking at a lot of more gluttonous approaching people. They seem to enjoy. They get that kick of whatever the laziness, the food, the alcohol, the whatever that excess is, you know, and then they have the pain for the rest of the day, you know. And I don't know. I mean, like obviously, right? Everybody makes mistakes. You know, nobody's health is perfect, but I guess like I even kind of think of myself a few years ago. So I guess like I didn't have the best diet. You know, usually you don't have to when you're young, of course, right? I would drink a lot of sugar, a lot of soda, excess sugar. That was my main problem. And for a while there, I wasn't working out as much. I wasn't as active as I should have been. And this was, I think, in 2017, sometime early 2017. We were living in Thailand, actually. My wife and I were living in Thailand. And it was just like, you know what? I'm going to stop drinking soda and sugary drinks right now. I'll never do it again. I'm only going to drink water and tea, coffee, and wine. That's it. And I'm going to start working out every single day. And I have done that without fail for the last 4 years. When I cut sugar, I lost 10 pounds in 2 weeks. I'm a small person, you know, and I'm just like, how was that even possible?
Like, what the hell just happened?
It was shocking. I'm just like, how did I have 10 pounds to lose even, right? You know, but I did, you know, and now actually, so my wife and I work out twice a day, every single day. We've been doing that for several months. Prior to that, we worked out once a day. We've been doing that for years. I only drink water and tea and wine now. I've cut coffee too, because
more power to you.
Hard on my stomach. So now it's only green and herbal tea, and then water and wine, red wine, and almost all of our meals are home cooked, high protein, a lot of fruits and vegetables. My wife's an incredible cook, so that adds to it. And it's just like, yeah, we just try to optimize everything there. We go on like a 30 to 40-minute walk almost every single night. It's a great time for talking and thinking too. And you're just like, we've made all of these micro, oh yeah, here's my lunch right now.
Perfect timing. Olives, veggies. I'm seeing some chips. Nice.
Hummus. Pizza with fresh mozzarella. Yeah, pizza with organic fresh mozzarella.
Oh, she's an amazing cook, dude. Enjoy that. Feel free to dig in as you go. We're chilling. And you touched upon a lot of great things where it's like, you know, moderation, being able to, you know, indulge as opposed to having gluttony.
Snap peas and hummus. I mean, like, it's crazy. It's freaking good.
That's more healthy than I'll definitely go with crackers in the hummus. Snap peas, but that's me. But it's a lot about longevity and understanding that, you know, if we do it right, we look to balance out our gluttony and just ourselves. We can live a long life. It could be fruitful. We can have gluttonous moments. I think when people get addicted to that epinephrine shot or just the adrenaline of gluttony or just the excitement of things, and they crave it more and more, and they don't understand that we're like dogs with Pavlov's test on dogs and making them salivate. We're another species. the more aware we are of it all, I think it helps us with just making those right decisions, which, with you're working with business owners.
Yeah.
How did that transition go for you from slightly working with athletes to transitioning on to consulting?
Well, so I was training for the Olympics. I was training athletes. But I was at the same time also presented with, and you've obviously solved this problem for yourself. I was presented with the problem was I didn't know how to make money doing that. I was working at a gym and as a personal trainer, and basically the people there told me, I was 19 at this time. Okay, so what do I know, right? I don't know anything. And so they basically told me, like, listen, the way you get clients, you find 50-year-old women with upper middle class lifestyles and husbands. They're your best clients. And you train them on the traditional approaches in the gym. You don't do anything innovative. And I was trying to do all this innovative stuff. I was using kettlebells. I was using medicine balls. I wasn't using the gym's equipment, and they hated that. And they basically told me, like, hey, this is not how it works. This is not how you're going to make money. Now, obviously, I've broke it, right? You know what I mean? But at that time, for me, I didn't have the skills or the knowledge or experience. And so I felt like, I'm like, well, I don't know how to monetize this. I don't know how to make money doing it. So I need to do something else. And so I went and joined the Army. My dad served a career in the military. So I, understood that. And so I ended up in Special Forces training for 2 years.
Very awesome.
And then in 2011, when the DoD budget sequestration happened, do you remember that? Do you know anything about that?
Not too well, no.
Okay, well, in 2011, there was the sequester. It was a big moment where what happened literally overnight, the Department of Defense budget was cut by 10%. One of those classic, we're having a big argument in government about budget, nobody's signing a bill. And what ended up happening was because they didn't get anything done, the DoD budget was cut by 10% instantly. Not over a year, not over 5 years, instantly. And so I was in Special Forces training, and I was the youngest person in my training battalion. So I got disappeared overnight, along with a bunch of other young guys, and that's what happens. So I got moved to the 82nd Airborne Division, and I was there in the infantry for a month. My mom, jokingly, told me that there was a choir in the 82nd Airborne Division. Maybe I should consider joining that. That might be fun. I thought that was a joke, of course, because why would there be a choir in the Army? Well, there is a choir in the Army. I happened to be at an event a few days later, and they were there. I went up to them and auditioned. They accepted me. I joined the 82nd Airborne Division All-American a cappella chorus.
Very cool.
And 3 months later, I became the musical director. So I spent the majority of my military career traveling around the United States, writing music, directing music, and singing.
Good shit.
I've performed on Monday Night Football. I performed at Medal of Honor ceremonies. I performed on events at Ellis Island, performed at NASCAR events, NHL events. I've performed for at the time, oldest living Medal of Honor winner.
How old?
At the time, he was 93.
Wow.
Rodolfo Hernandez from the Korean War. And then, I don't know. Again, I performed at probably over 600 events in 3 years. All around.
That's incredible.
Absolute
I was just taking you there by just taking opportunities, dude. Honestly, you showed up and you're like, let me see what happens.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to your character too, because in 3 months you become the director. Like you make moves, you know how to set yourself apart. And who knows? I'm not sure if you were trying to do so. It's just how you operate. So that's amazing.
Yeah, but then I got out and moved to DC. I started graduate school at in international affairs. I started working with the UN. I started working with a nonprofit, actually Ben Affleck's nonprofit. So focused on economic development in the Democratic Republic of Congo and in war-torn regions in Southern Cap. So partnerships with Starbucks and Nike and Google and building projects in Central Africa. Ended up hating DC culture. We moved to Thailand. I got a job as a humanitarian working in refugee camps. But at that time, I realized, I don't really like the nonprofit world. It's super inefficient. I got an opportunity to do some consulting, and then I just built my own firm from then. And that was about 3 years ago. And since then, I've increased my income by 10 times as a consultant. So,
Nell will be another good person to talk to from the
Yeah.
group. She works with nonprofits that are looking to not just deal with the situation in front of them, they try to go to the source of the problem. So I know with nonprofits, as we were mentioning, sometimes it's just that they take too long, they're not talking to the right people, and change isn't happening.
they're expensive.
That would
They're
be
an
an
expensive
interesting
solution to the
person.
problem.
Exactly. So that'd be an interesting person to talk to. Maybe there's some synergy.
Maybe, yeah. I tried to
Maybe.
start, I did try to start a company that was trying to do consulting with nonprofits. I was doing it with a few partners. We went nowhere. Not because the business unit or business concept was bad necessarily. I don't know. It might be bad. Just the people that I was working with, who again were nonprofit people, just no entrepreneurial initiative whatsoever. So that solidified a lot more kind of who I am now in terms of the types of people I want to work with and my business focus.
Mind you, you've been trained to assess situations and see where it's going. So you know, all right, I've been here long enough. It's not nothing's happening. I'm moving forward.
Yeah,
makes sense. It's good. That's how you pivot.
Yeah, a lot of pivots. Awful lot of pivots. I've written an article on my website about the ideal strength program for a very busy entrepreneur who doesn't have very much time. So
I got to check that out.
I will send it to you.
Please
and I'll
do.
wonder what your views are on that, or how you would modify that from your perspective. But obviously, I've had my approach over the past few years, and it's been quite effective for me.
Yeah,
I have specific objectives. I'm going for certain body measurements, right? So
you're good by starting off with goals, being precise, having metrics, because we all need targets to shoot at or go towards. And then just how you're splitting up your workouts will be interesting to read, and your time. You have to be very concise and precise with what you're doing. So, like you're saying, you're working out 2 times a day. That may be 30 minutes for strength training, 30 minutes for walking at the nighttime to just one walk, but then also unwind. So I'm excited to read it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, how has fitness helped you throughout this part of your career with consulting?
Oh, I have stable and consistent energy throughout the day. I have to be able to work at a high level from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed.
And you're working Australian time, so that's.
But I don't think you can do that accidentally. I don't think a human being is born with the innate capability of hyper efficiency from waking up to going to bed.
If we look at the basics of what a human needs is to make sure that they have food, shelter, water. Once you have that, exactly, a lot of people get comfortable. So it's all about how you sustain energy to be able to keep thriving for more.
But that's actually a perfect point, right? And that's I think that's one of the biggest human questions. It's like, wait a minute, human beings, we are not predisposed in genetically, biologically, psychologically, historically, philosophically to optimize our existence. We are there's a great book. It's about physics actually, but for somebody like me, the layman who's kind of interested but not an expert, by Bill Bryson. It's called A Brief History of Everything. And there's this quote in there where he's talking about the Cambrian explosion of 460 million years ago, when single cellular organisms rapidly were expanding into multicellular organisms. It's one of the most important parts of the history of the cosmos for Earth. For life on Earth. And his statement about life from a biological historical standpoint is that life wants to be, but it doesn't want to be very much. It wants to do just enough to exist. And that is mainly a question about conserving resources. It's a conservation approach, not an optimization approach. And so there's no good biological or evolutionary argument that we can make historically that it is a proper path for human beings to attempt difficult, noble challenges. It is our biology would tell us, our evolution would tell us, nature in general would tell us, okay, wait a minute, the proper path of existence is to optimize your resources. That's what life is supposed to do. Why do you humans with your big brains think you're so special to act differently than the lion, than the tree, than the flower? So it's a unique proposition, and it's an uncommon proposition that I think can really only be substantiated with philosophy and religious views.
And it's interesting, actually, continue, I don't want to cut you off.
And perhaps economic, that we should strive for more. And I find that fascinating. And I guess in a way, I mean, this conversation has become extremely interesting. You're recording this too, good. Maybe you should publish it.
Definitely.
That I suppose, even maybe reflecting on that personal journey in a way, and my career and how that's moved, and who I like working with, and maybe why I even am enjoying speaking with you and connecting with the people that I want to connect with in so many ways, is that I'm absolutely fascinated and motivated and driven to meet other people that stupidly decide I'm going to try to do something noble and challenging, and I'm going to attempt to use more resources than I damn well need to, and demand more resources for my own personal production, and to try to increase my productivity to a point that is substantially beyond my own needs and the needs of those even around me. That is a rare proposition. It is an uncommon act, and it's one that, again, there's not a good naturalist, logical, scientific basis for you to make that argument.
I think there is, which is going to just be a rabbit hole, right? We're just gonna go back in a circle where we're looking to optimize to be able to then feel like we have this sense of security, this freedom, this ability to now conserve, right? Because there's going to be a point where you want to have a VA, you want to have people doing what you've done because you've attained mastery and you've been able to do it so well and proficient that you can teach others. So that then now you can make money while you sleep, to then walk more, to take, where are you with that?
I know, but that, again, that I'm saying that's a complicated argument though. That's not an obvious argument.
No, because then after a certain point, then you're conserving. So you're back at where life should be.
Yeah, I'm going, exactly, precisely. I'm going to work really, really hard for many, many years to get to the point where I'm making money in my sleep and I can be a conservationist again. Why? There's a bunch of people that were just like, I'm going to be a conservationist for my whole life.
And then they're finding happiness, they're finding their success in their own way, in their own merit. Is it, this kind of goes back with what we talk about with gluttony. Is it because we're being marketed certain things to want to continue to achieve more? And achieving more isn't bad. There's definitely a 1% of the 1% for everything. You were the 1% for 400 hurdles, and it's interesting because that's a mindset, that's a way of life, that's something that you can pass down. So we can kind of get into Darwinism here, looking to pass down certain traits to the next generation. For your kids, for me and my kids that I have in the future, I want to make sure that I can put them in a position to be able to live a life that they're able to be comfortable, but not comfortable enough that they're not progressing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Again, I'm with you there, but again, I'm just taking this very huge, massive historical view, right? Where does that come from, right? What's the root of that? Because it is still uncommon. It's still massively uncommon. And we have very little evidence of human beings voluntarily adopting this strategy in any era, within the written record, which is just about 5,000 to 6,000 years, of course.
That's nothing. That's nothing.
So, and we can make a healthy assumption that we, didn't have some comparative society as we do today previously that's been wiped out. It's possible, I suppose, but it's unlikely. And so we obviously do see massive amounts of suffering occurring, extremely high death rates, high mortality, starvation, and issues like that generally have plagued human existence for most of our history. Now we're living in this period of relative abundance, again, despite the fact that obviously, right, you've experienced loss even today. It still obviously occurs, but statistically speaking, we can't, we live in the most wealthy, safe, healthy, secure, protected world, the global civilization that's ever existed. by far.
Up to this point, yeah.
And I think that relies on, I think that that's existed on the back of a effectively small number of people who have voluntarily and almost erroneously come to the conclusion that, wait a minute, I need something more in my life than simply the conservation of resources. I'm going to defy the biological view of life's existence, which is to exist, and I'm going to adopt a type of human view, which is something to do with searching for meaning, searching for helping, a certain degree of generosity. It's kind of what you alluded to teach others, to help others. And that, of course, we can now post hoc, right, come up with, this is an a posteriori argument, right? We can say, okay, well, because I did those things, I lived a better life. Subjectively, according to me, okay, not objectively, subjectively, according to me, I can argue that I have a greater degree of security because I've been able to fortify these qualities and surround myself with other people with similar viewpoints. But if that were so obvious, then why is it such a unique phenomena that's so rare and so modern, relatively speaking?
There's struggle in that, how much struggle is somebody willing to take to be able to learn, to be able to go to another level, to take risks, right? Everything is, we're either fear-based or we're focused on the possibility of being able to succeed. And I think I used to do karate as a kid, and I've been thrown into many tournaments, regionally, nationally. And the more exposure you have to situations, the less fear there is, right? If you have people that have either been sheltered or just are afraid to take certain risks, that may be tougher for them as they grow older because of the habits that we create and the habits that we start to create our personality and our character, right? To consciously be aware of oneself every day and be like, all right, I can improve on being a better partner. I can improve on my fitness. I can improve on being a better son, brother, et cetera, et cetera. You start to understand that. All right, there's work to do. There's work to be optimized. Now, is that to, not feel pain, not feel frustration, to help alleviate other people's pains and frustrations when we come up with businesses? And I get that. I read this book called Outliers, and it talks about the same thing we're talking about, outliers within different generations. During the 1800s, when there was the industrial boom, you had several people that became millionaires. Nowadays, that's many billions, right? You have the Einsteins of the world, you have the Steve Jobs of the world, and they talk about this one guy during the Depression who he was trying to figure out how to stand out in the crowd. He was trying to make money to just take care of his family. So he was making fabrics and dresses. So one day he's just walking around the street and he starts to see girls in aprons. And he's like, let me start making aprons. Nobody else is making aprons. Everyone's selling dresses. So let me look on doing this. He busted his ass for a night with his wife. They started making aprons and they found a problem that they can solve, a frustration that they can fix. Like, hey, we have aprons if you want to buy them. It was selling like hotcakes. So, I think it's multi-layered. I did go off a tangent there, but yeah.
Well, but you with that example, you kind of tie into part of my, specifically the why behind my work, right? A lot of the things that I've said about philosophy and history there kind of fortify, kind of the premises for how I feel about a lot of businesses. When I see businesses, it's like, wait a minute, like if we look at human development kicked off, late 1700s, early 1800s. What was going on then? Technological advancement allowing for explosive potentiality of energy. So we are no longer reliant upon manpower or trees, principally, to be our energy source. We're tapping into something that's hyper efficient. Coal is hyper efficient. And now, in our modern era, coal is extremely inefficient compared to the alternatives.
It's
we have a hyper efficient energy source to power production. Okay, well, that's pretty interesting. And then on top of that, we have a book called The Wealth of Fucking Nations. And we have with the invention of capitalism. And we see that what that unlocks, obviously it creates inequality. But the thing that it's compared to is, well, the more equal human societies are, the more destitute and impoverished and enslaved they have been. And then the greater inequality we have is also the creation of the possibility of wealth, the possibility of economic mobility. Obviously, no system can be regarded as perfect. No political and economic order could be called an angel, right? By comparison to however we would think of an angel, But I see that level of production, and what business owners do is that, generally speaking, obviously we know all the bad stories. Every business that's done something unethical, everyone knows about it. But what characterizes the, again, 99+% of entrepreneurs and businesses and professionals and workers out there is they're literally solving problems to reduce human suffering faster and more effectively than any other system we've ever seen. And there's nothing that can be compared to it. Nothing is more effective than the entrepreneur mind, than the business unit at increasing the quality of goods and services and decreasing their costs, which again opens them up to more people. And that's why we've seen human life expectancies doubled. That's why we've seen wealth increase for everyone rapidly. That's why we've seen healthcare be a thing that is affordable for most people, or at least accessible, or at least achievable. That's why we're seeing more people die of obesity rather than starvation. That's why we're seeing almost nobody die due to environmental causes. And then I'm thinking about the weather events that have happened in the US over the past 2 years. They're highly reported on, oh, they've been caused by X, Y, or Z. Of course, global warming is real and it's a problem. We need to improve what we're doing with our environment, absolutely. But almost nobody died. Why did nobody die? Trucks shipping food and water and saving people and rescuing people, like these business capabilities, all of these resources and technological assets we have made it so, again, before, right? If we look at the history of China, almost every Chinese emperor, Chinese dynasty, you can see the rise and fall of the Chinese dynasty. And part of it mirrors the rise and fall of every nation state that's ever existed. There's a great king that does a great thing, unifies people, builds people up, and then that king has sons, and those sons inevitably become pieces of shit. Okay?
And they don't do their job.
They don't do the job, and then it's taken over by a competent aristocracy, and that aristocracy then becomes corrupt. And then because of the corruption, the people then kind of take over, and then they devolve into a mob. Okay, boom, there's the rise of all societies. However, with China, there's another interesting feature that this happens elsewhere as well, but a unique comparative history here that I find interesting is you see that dynasties generally fall at the event of a great natural disaster where millions and millions and millions of people die. And so that historically was what the Chinese said, that the emperors lost the mandate of heaven. They no longer have the mandate to rule from God. And so they obviously need to be replaced. And so a great weather or natural disaster event would occur. Millions and millions of people die. Now, obviously events still happen today, but by comparison, oh my God.
You're not having millions of people dying.
So different. It's so different. And right now what we're wrestling with, it's like, oh my God, this natural disaster, there was some death and destruction because people didn't meet the building standards that they should have. Okay, we're let's compare this world that we're in now versus the world that we would have had before. It's like, wait a minute, we don't have building standards. We don't have the capability of defending against the violence and tyranny of nature, an arbitrary tyranny of nature.
That comes from a group of people being able to reflect on what just happened and say, how can we avoid this? And over decades, over centuries, there's something to say, all right, we actually have the capability to make buildings. Oh shit, we need standards for buildings so that, this building got destroyed, but now we know that we need to create a foundation for a building in a way so that it can withstand these natural disasters. And it's those people, those groups that continue to come together to see a disaster, see a situation, see a problem, and say, all right, let's focus on fixing, figuring out the solution.
The fact that we have buildings that are resistant to earthquakes and the ability to extract almost an entire population away from a flood or a natural disaster, where it's rare for a natural disaster to result in death. And the only thing that happens is property damage, which we have insurance that covers almost everything. And we have companies that rebuild almost everything quickly. And virtually immediately. And that even a great disaster event results in, again, comparatively, and a short-term loss for a relatively small number of people, and that there's a general safety net for almost all of them. Again, those facts are just ridiculous to me. They're ridiculous to me and anybody from any point in time in history, even our grandparents.
And it's that 1%.
Yeah.
This has been great. I gotta tell you that. Great conversation so far.
Yeah.
Those are the best conversations, the ones that just flow into so many different topics. I always welcome
Yeah, we were just going to talk about working out.
it.
People who work out, we're not supposed to be the people that don't think about stuff, right?
I'm definitely an anomaly, my friend.
Yeah.
I try to make sure that it's an art, it's an experience, and with everything that I do, conversations with workouts, where we're able to connect deeply. We're talking about fitness,
Yeah.
we're talking about different aspects of life, different times in the human just age, the human period and story.
Yeah.
On how to improve. And I know with your book coming out, it's going to help a lot of people whose careers get better. The second book is going to help a lot of business owners, and I'm doing the same thing in fitness. So it's exciting to be on the same ride.
What room is this you're in? Are you opposed to furniture and artwork?
So what's happening is that my girlfriend and I just moved into an apartment. We
Okay.
just painted that wall because I was doing video calls and they said, "Hey, it looks like you're in a crazy room." And
Yeah,
somebody thought I was in a racquetball room, and I'm like,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So the furniture is coming, but the problem is that everything is back ordered. There was an article on this website called Gizmodo talking about how a lot of shipping containers are empty, and not many people. There's a lot more people ordering, but a lot of people aren't ordering furniture and all that. So I think a lot of companies are waiting to have a minimum MOQ, minimum order quantity, before they ship out product. So I think we have the couch coming in like a month or so. So up until that, it looked like I'm a crazy room.
Well, we're worried about a few things like that too. We just a couple days ago closed on our house,
Grass.
and it's a construction. So we're building our house. We designed it. My wife did all that. It's amazing.
I love
But
it.
so it's a house we designed ourselves. We're just starting construction. But yeah, we're worried about some potential delays of various things, appliances, and so there. I mean, who knows what's going to end up happening? But yeah, I mean, it's going to get done. But we're probably going to have to anticipate some stuff like that. So
Yeah, the when is what's up in the air. When it'll get done by.
we're apparently under 3 months.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have to get ready for another call at 3. This was amazing.
I do too. I have a call too. So.
Yeah. Dude, once again, we should definitely keep stay in touch. I'll send you this video as well. I'll post it up on my LinkedIn. And dude, this was awesome. Let's just keep moving forward.
Yeah, cool. I really enjoyed it. I'll see you around though.
Bye.
All right, bye.